You're watching Drake Wing Gaming. Enjoy the video. Hey guys and gals, Neri here from Drake Wing Gaming. Some of you me on Twitter, The Gaming Dragon. Today I'm coming back at you into the Let's Play episode of Temptation's Ballad. So y'all, let's just go ahead and jump right back in, shall we? Please sit back and enjoy it for the next 18 minutes while entertaining, and let's jump right in. Alarm Chan, you are up, and let's go, I think. Give me one sec. Okay, there we go. Alright, Alarm Chan, your time is now. Let's do it. Alright. Mero turned towards his son with a grin. Hey, Cole, this one's my favorite. Everyone stared blankly, utterly baffled. Hamish rubbed his temples and sighed. Okay, let's take a break. It turned out that taking a break meant being swept up by a wave of enthusiastic and supportive Bonebreaker mercenary men who immediately showered them with food and beer. The mercenaries were attentive and chatty as they tended to the rookie's wounds with words of encouragement. Sid and Artemy were literally carried to the lobby tavern dining area and were showered with cheerful applause. So, you got your first beating from the captain, eh? That ought to put some hair on your chest. Plenty of guys come through here thinking they're hot shit, then they get a hard reality check. Sid's ears dropped as he declined yet another tankard of beer. I'm not sure about that. I came here thinking I was pretty bad, and I got hit with the reality that I'm pretty darn bad. The elder mercenary tending to Sid's bruised arm chuckled. It's all part of the process. You can't start getting good until you know where you're lacking, right? Don't let the captain's tough love fool you. He cares a great deal about his men. If you take his advice to heart, you're sure to grow into a better warrior. Sid let out a doubtful mumble. Sitting beside him, Artemy frowned thoughtfully as she sipped from the only teacup in the entire Bonebreaker Guild tavern building. I was surprised. Despite his barbaric nature and dubious teaching methods, Sir Mero is a rather wise man. I do feel better after our unorthodox battle. Letting loose and releasing all my pent-up feelings, it was truly cathartic. I certainly would have received a beating if I tried such a thing back at the Grand Cathedral. However, Artemy grimaced. I hope Sir Mero was not upset that I lost control during our fight. A wave of snickers passed through the tavern as that soon became outright laughter. That was utterly mad! Most of us never even managed to land a hit on the captain during our first sparring match with him. And you bit him! You, the prissy little knight! I've never seen Mero so gobsmacked. Artemy frowned uncertainly. Is that good? Nothing in this guild makes sense. The crowd of mercenaries cackled in delight. The mercenary tending to their wounds grabbed a tankard and raised it with a grin. A toast to our new clueless rookie! This was met with a roar of cheers as men left and right raised their cups with fond glee. Artemy flushed and buried her face in her teacup. She had never been under such a positive spotlight before, and she didn't even know why. It was hard to know how to respond. She glanced towards Sid, who was staring joylessly down at his tankard. Sir Sid, is something the matter? Oh, I'm fine. Just a little sore from the fight, that's all. He took a deep swig of his ale and quickly changed the subject. Say, where did Cole go? I haven't seen him in a while. Cole is talking to his dad, okay. Cole plopped down onto a nearby crate and watched expectantly as his father cleaned the blade of his great axe. So, what do you think, Papa, about my new crew? Cole tried to hide the nervous hitch in his voice as he shifted in his seat. A wave of relief washed over him when Mero chuckled and winked. You found yourself a fine pair of underlings, boy. They'll make excellent adventuring partners for you. The older hyena scratched his chin thoughtfully as he holstered his axe. The buff badger, Sid was it? He's a good kid, got some real nice strength and superb reflexes. Kinda spineless, though. He's indecisive and a real pushover who has trouble standing up for himself. Mero rested a hand on Cole's shoulder. As his leader, if you take good care of him, he's gonna take good care of you. You're a leader now, my boy. Make sure to give your new underlings the guidance they need. Cole nodded slowly. Yeah, of course I will. Mero's grin softened fondly as he began bandaging the teeth marks on his forearm. As for that night lass, she's got guts, I'll give her that. Even without that bullshit magic of hers, she's still a force of nature. Good choice, my boy. However, Mero paused. When you get to my age, you start to get a sense of people when you cross swords with them. That lass, she's got a lot of bottled up rage. Mero sighed and shook his head. Reminds me an awful lot of myself in my younger days. Be careful with that one. Cole winced as he remembered the pure wrath that poured from Artemy when she had confronted him in Clyde's office yesterday. How did you deal with it when you were younger? A teasing grin spread across Mero's face. That's when I met my beautiful Hamish. She truly tamed me into a better man. Cole scoffed and stuck out his tongue. I don't know, Papa. Out of all the men in the world, you chose that? You choose that? No man in the world is comparable to my Hammy. Mero's tone suddenly dipped to a low rumble. I know you two have never seen eye to eye, but never questioned my love for him. I wouldn't be a fraction of the man I am today if not for Hamish. If you say so. Oh, speak of the devil. The door creaked open as Hamish poked his head inside. Hun, I need to have a word with Cole. Both Mero's and Cole's eyebrows rose in surprise. I need to have a word with you. Usually Hamish speak for you're in big fucking trouble. Mero mouthed a teasing good luck to Cole before slipping out of the room. Cole let an irritated sigh as Hamish approached. Alrighty, what do you want? Hamish blatantly ignored Cole's quarrelsome tone and sat down across from him with a stern expression. There was an intensity in his gaze that left Cole feeling uncomfortable. So, you are a leader now. It wasn't a question. Cole crossed his arms and turned up his nose. Yeah, I am. What's it to you? Hamish's stern stare pierced right through him. This isn't just about you anymore. You have to do better. What are you talking about? Hamish let out a deep sigh and closed his eyes. Your father was a great and faithful leader throughout his time at the Bonebreaker Guild, as the Bonebreaker Guild's captain. Everyone in this guild would happily lay down their lives for him. Do you know why? It's because he's done the same for us countless times. Mero truly loves everyone here. He knows their passions, their concerns, their insecurities, and works hard to build everyone up with undying support. He cares. As a leader and a friend, you need to build a similar relationship with your own teammates and treat them better. Cole shifted nervously in his seat. Well, of course. I've been treating them well. You don't have to worry about that. No. The Ruby. Cole felt his stomach drop. How do you know about that? Wait, are you going to rat me out? Hamish shook his head calmly. No. You are a leader now. Admitting your wrongdoings will be your own responsibility. It's not my fault that those two are gullible little suckers. Plus, they beat me to a pulp if they knew about the things I did yesterday. Why do I have to... A snarl rose from Hamish's throat. Relationships are vulnerable. Trust is a risk. If you're not willing to be either, then be alone. You cannot screw them over and then abandon them like you did to Clyde years ago. You're better than this. A red-hot flash of anger bubbled up from Cole's chest. He glared at Hamish, blood boiling and vision blurry with indignant rage. Who do you think you are, my dad? You don't know a fucking thing about me. What makes you think you can go parenting me like some sort of glorified nanny? I've got no idea what Papa even puts up with you. Hamish's expression tightened and he sighed, completely unsurprised. Of course I know you, Cole. I raised you since you were a tiny crying bundle of diapers. I know you have a hard time being honest with yourself, and you push back when you feel vulnerable. Hamish paused. But I also know you can push past this and grow into a much better man. I care about you, Cole. Cole had barely processed Hamish's words before snapping back. I don't give a damn about you. I know. Deathly silence filled the room. Cole managed to compose his racing heart in the lull, his animosity subsiding enough to eventually comprehend Hamish's words. As soon as his anger quelled, a twinge of guilt filled Cole's chest. Yeah, Cole can be a bit of a dick. He quickly swallowed it back down. Hamish let another quiet sigh before standing and dusting off his breeches. That's all I had to say for today. Let's move on, shall we? Gather up your new teammates. I need to brief them on their mission to find the prince's 4 missing rubies. Cole watched the older hyena walk quietly out of the sparring room, his shoulders low with fatigue. A stubborn part of him wanted to dismiss everything that Hamish said, but that sharp twinge of guilt in his chest was becoming hard to ignore. A brief time later, Hamish managed to drag Ardemy and Sid away from the overly fond crowd of drunk mercenaries with some difficulty. Cole blinked as they approached. Ardemy was absolutely beaming, as though she had shared several entertaining conversations with a pleasant crowd. Sid, on the other hand, was sulking with his head hung low. What happened to you two? Oh, Cole, you should have joined us. Your fellow mercenary men were wonderful company. Such cheer and camaraderie. I've never experienced anything like it. Sid shuffled across the room and slumped down next to Cole. He grumbled quietly. Yeah, they really liked how tough the Chosen One is. Mero's real impressed with her. Cole squinted between Ardemy's oblivious grin and Sid's envious brooding. The air was thick with an awkward one-sided tension. And Hamish told him to lead these two? What a mess he's found himself in. Speaking of Hamish, the older hyena completely avoided his gaze as he pulled a large chalkboard from a nearby supply closet. Pinned to the board was a large map of Axia, along with several scribbled notes and details of the fighting ring incident from yesterday. What is this, a classroom lecture? Hamish shrugged. I'm rather fond of using chalkboards to plan out future missions. He turned towards Ardemy with a nod and gestured for her to sit. I'd like to iron out some details before I send out my network of eyes and ears eyes and ears to locate your rubies. Of course, that sounds reasonable. Cole tapped his foot impatiently as he stared at the tiny writing on the chalkboard. I thought you were supposed to be the brains behind the Bone Breakers. Are you telling us you haven't figured anything out yet? Hamish looked at him sharply. I should be asking you the same thing. His tone was steady and uneven. You were present during the fight, weren't you? As leader of your adventuring party, I'd expect you to be attentive to your friends' battles. Fights are not merely a time to cross blades. You can gather a lot of information about people from the way they act during battle. Hamish sat down next to his chalkboard with his arms crossed and gave Cole a hard stare. Now, you tell me. Who is this cloaked mage, and what direction should this investigation go? Cole grumbled and shifted uncomfortably under Hamish's gaze. Was this some sort of test? Was Hamish trying to make him look bad in front of his new lackeys? Artemy and Sid glanced towards him expectantly, eagerly waiting for his response. Cole cleared his throat and stared at the chalkboard, sweat starting to bead across his brow. If this was a test, he fully refused to give Hamish the satisfaction of seeing him fail. What can he analyze from yesterday's events? Well, let's start off with the obvious. The cloaked figure is a very powerful mage. Cole scratched his chin thoughtfully. Mass mind control spell, counterspell, shield, conjure elemental. They're probably versed in the wizardry class of magic, or maybe druidcraft? No, wizardry is more likely. He nodded slowly as he slowly replayed yesterday's events in his mind. They also spoke down to everyone, called them peasants and whatnot. Not to mention how they rambled on and on about how big and important they are. This mage is likely a noble or someone of a higher class. Cole closed his eyes and thought hard. What else? When I grabbed one of the rubies, they tackled me to the ground and we wrestled for a bit. They didn't feel very muscular or physically strong. Probably someone on the scrawnier side. They stood at around 5'10", give or take. As for motives, I'm willing to bet that these rubies have magical or arcane properties. This mage of ours is someone who has a need for power or status. Likely works alone, too. They're familiar enough with the city to know about Clyde's fighting ring, so they're probably a native of Axia as well. Cole opened his eyes and suddenly realized everyone was staring at him. Impressive, Cole! Your deductive skills are quite formidable! Sid scratched his head sullenly. I kinda got mind control, so I don't remember any of this. Good to know my boss is a smart one, though. Cole grinned slightly and drank up all the praise, feeling his ego inflate slightly. And you know what the best part is? Tomorrow's the beginning of the city's Firefly Festival. Usually we wouldn't be able to just waltz into the noble court, but nobles and regular city folk alike will be participating. It's one of the few chances that the different classes of Axia will be intermingling casually. Food stalls, brawling matches, even a jousting tournament. It'll be the perfect opportunity for us to investigate and maybe befriend a few nobles. That is a sound strategy. Though, I am worried if we'll be lucky enough to run into our mysterious cloaked mage among all the nobles at the festival. We don't need to be lucky. It's a small world among the Axian nobles. They're filled with gossip and news about one another. Even if we don't meet this mage directly, we can probably dig up info about them or people who have been acting suspicious lately. Cole crossed his arms and faced Hamish with a smug grin. How's that for my leadership skills, huh? Hamish nodded with a small smile. Not bad. Not bad at all. However, you are missing one crucial detail. He tapped at the church district on the map of Axia and traced a line to Rotten Red's alleyway. How did this mage know that the ruby would end up in Clyde's ring yesterday? Everyone blinked in surprise. Artemy was supposed to deliver that crown directly to the royal family castle. However, she was tricked by a young street urchin who stole it and later sold it to Clyde. Even more suspiciously, this delivery was originally supposed to be made by someone else entirely. The task was assigned to Artemy last minute by her knight commander. Hamish turned his gaze towards Artemy. Assigned to someone inexperienced and quite gullible, if you'd allow me to say. Artemy winced but conceded with a defeated nod. Hamish stared at the map with a thoughtful squint. This leaves us with several questions. How did the urchin know that Artemy would have something valuable enough to pawn off to Clyde? Furthermore, why was the maid so sure that the rubies would end up at the fighting ring? There's something fishy going on here. The older hyena turned towards the three young adventurers staring up at him. I suggest that you three take time to speak with the knight commander and find the street urchin. They might have some answers to what's truly happening behind the scenes. Artemy and Sid exchanged impressed looks. That makes sense. I didn't even think this far ahead. Your intellect is truly something to be admired, Sir Hamish. I can see who Cole gets his cunning mind from. Cole spluttered indignantly and crossed his arms. Excuse me? Hamish never taught me shit. Artemy nodded shrewdly. They say the greatest teachers are able to impart wisdom without their pupils realizing. You're irritating me on purpose, aren't you? I do not see why you dislike the idea of benefiting from another's guidance. Yeah, I mean, Hamish sounds as smart as the tale says he is. Sid, you're supposed to be on my side. Huh? Sid scratched his head in bewilderment. What are we taking sides on? Hamish stood up and clapped his hands together. All right, kids, enough squabbling. Why don't you three take the rest of the evening off? Artemis looked utterly aghast. Take time off? But we're supposed to be working. You three fought in Clyde's fighting ring yesterday and got the shit kicked out of you by Marrow today. That's enough to exhaust anyone. Use this time to rest up before the real work begins tomorrow. Three adventurers glanced at each other before nodding in agreement. Sounds like a plan. Like Hamish said, this is probably a good time for them to explore the city and speak to locals about recent events. Where should they start? Ooh. Where should we start? Okay. Yo, people in the comments, where should we start? No, we should probably talk to the Knight Commander, so he'll probably be in the church district. The trip to the Grand Cathedral was a quiet and awkward one. Cole repeatedly shot glances towards Artemis as they walked quietly contemplating his next words. He supposed that if he made Artemis angry, he could just hide behind Sid or something. Cole cleared his throat loudly. So, I know you were super excited to show us around the Grand Cathedral and whatnot, but you understand the main reason why we're here, right? Artemis looked at him strangely. We are going to ask the Knight Commander about the circumstances of the crown delivery mission, are we not? Yeah, but here's the thing. Cole Winston preemptively hid behind Sid's large figure. Your Knight Commander was the one who gave you the mission last minute, which then set everything else into motion. That kinda implicates him as at least being a little suspicious. Instantly, Artemis whirled around with a glare of absolute fury. Sparks of angry lightning crackled across her armor. If looks could kill, Cole would have withered into dust before he even hit the ground. How dare you! Sir Grank is the most righteous and kind knight in all of Axia. He's the Knight Commander of the Church, for goodness sake. Hey, I'm just saying. There's no possible way that he could be connected to any of this. I'm sure you will all be convinced once you meet him. None is more proper than our good knight. Oh. She was cut off by a large polar bear bursting through a nearby door and enthusiastically waving to them through a jolly laugh. Ho ho! Ah, you've arrived! Which one of you young'uns managed to humiliate our dear bishop in public today? You have my sincerest congratulations. That was the best laugh I've gotten in months. Artemis' jaw dropped in shock. Knight Commander, you mustn't be so blatantly crude. Oh, dear pupil, I'm the Knight Commander of the Church. I do what I want. Commander, please behave yourself. Anyways, are these the friends you mentioned in your letter? Alright, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and pause it right here. This is great. Alright, thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribing, that notification bell, leave a super thanks, or a tip if you can, it always helps. Until the next video, I love you all. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!